The urges, the urges of the genitals, the sex impulse, can be controlled when not used unnecessarily. The genitals should be used to beget a Krishna conscious child, otherwise, they should not be used. The Krishna conscious movement encourage marriage not for the satisfaction of the genital, but for the begetting of Krishna conscious children. As soon as the children are a little grown up, they are sent to Gurukul school, where they are trained to become fully Krishna conscious devotees. Many such Krishna conscious children are required, and one who is capable of bringing forth Krishna conscious offspring is allowed to utilize his genitals. When one is fully practiced in the method of Krishna conscious control, he can become qualified to be a bona fide spiritual master. In his Anurati explanation of Upadeshmartha, Sri Bhakti Siddhant Saraswati Thakur writes that our material identification creates three kinds of urges: the urge to speak, the urge or demand of the mind, and the demands of the body. When a living entity falls victim to these three types of urges, his life becomes inauspicious. One who practices resisting these demands or urges is called tapasvi, or one who practices austerities. By such tapasya, one can overcome victimization by the energy, the personality of Godhead.
Hmm.
When we refer to the urge to speak, we refer to useless talking, such as of the impersonal Mayavadi philosophers or of person engaged in fructive activities, technically called karma kand, or of materialistic people who simply want to enjoy life without restriction. All such talks or literatures are practical exhibitions of the urge to speak. Many people are talking nonsensical and writing volumes of useless books. And all of this is the result of this urge to speak. To counteract this tendency, we have to divert our talking to the subject of Krishna. This is explained in Srimad Bhagavatam. Nayad Vyachas Chitrapadam Hariryaso Jagat Parivatam Pragatina Kachit Tad Vadasam Kritam Ustani Manasa Na Yatra Hamsa Nirmate Uski Kashyah. Those words which are not described of the glories of the Lord, who alone can sanctify the atmosphere of the whole universe, are considered by a saintly person to be like unto a place of pilgrimage for crows. Since the all perfect person are inhabitants of the transcendental abode, they do not derive any pleasure there. Tadva- Tadvag Visrago Jan, Janadgraha Viplav Yasim Prat Slokam Advait Api Nayam Anantya Yaso Nikitani Yat Shivanti Gyanti Granans Sadar. On the other hand, the literature, which is full of descriptions of the transcendental glories of the name, fame, forms, pastime, etc., of the unlimited Supreme Lord, is a different creation, full of transcendental words directed towards bringing about a revolution in the impious lives of this world's misdirected civilization. Such transcendental lectures, even though imperfectly composed, are heard, sung, and accepted by purified men who are thoroughly honest. The conclusion is that only when we speak about devotion service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead can we refrain from useless, nonsensical talk. We should always endeavor to use our speaking power solely for the purpose of realizing Krishna consciousness. As for
Yes,
the
Prabhuji.
agitations of
Prabhuji, you can pause now.
okay, Hare Krishna, please.
Hmm. Hmm. Yes, so now we are talking about. So Srila Prabhupada starts first with the. We started today with the urges of the genitals. Mm, so in many scriptures, in fact, in Srimad Bhagavatam, practically every other chapter talks about this. That there is Pumshama Striya Mithuni Bhavametam Tayor Mitho Hridaya Granthi Mahu. See, the greatest of devotees have been grihasthas. A lot of them were kshatriyas who had many wives also. For instance, Maharaj Priyavrat had a beautiful wife and 7 sons. Maharaj Chitraketu had 1,000,000 wives. Maharaj Dashrath, the father of Lord Ram, had 4 wives, 3 wives. Uh, Maharaj Nanda had 2 wives. So we can see that, and Lord Krishna himself had 16,108 wives. So we can see actually that male female association itself is not a barrier to Krishna consciousness, but it's a very fine line to tread. One has to maintain very strict separation of consciousness. So, because once so hriday tayor mitho hriday grantimahu. It forms a hard knot of false ego within the heart. I am a husband, I am a provider, or I am a wife, I am a mother, I am this, I am that. This conception becomes very strong. Misconception becomes very strong. Therefore, scriptures are cautioning in the male female association. So, especially if a man has a wife, then he should remain satisfied, or a wife has a husband, then she should remain satisfied. They should not hunt here and there for newer and newer partners, because that will only increase this illusion, which will only hasten the process of death, which will only increase the suffering within the material world. Of course, this is very difficult to control. Like Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur says that in the age of Kali, in this particular time, sannyas is forbidden, because no one has the mentality of a sannyasi. No one can really maintain that level of detachment from material nature. Therefore, in general, it is forbidden for normal men. There may be some exceptions, but other than that, the general mass of people are too materialistically attached. Therefore, one should get married like a gentleman and lead one's life peacefully without disturbing the rest of the society. So, this is some rules. These are some rules which are mentioned in the scriptures. Now, another point is that, the whole objective is Brahma Bhuyaya Kalpate, that one has to be established on the platform of Brahman. One has to become free from bodily consciousness. In the association of the opposite sex, one feels a false sense of safety. Oh, I have someone to take care of me. I have somebody in my life to share. In this way, the bodily consciousness increases. Sannyas is very difficult, actually. So, if one can control the urges of sex, one can actually become situated on the platform of Brahman. Hmm. So, when one practices Krishna consciousness, one can easily overcome this, because the yogis are trying to overcome the false ego. But devotees, they are very simple. Devotees do not try to get rid of false ego, but they try to understand that I am just a servant of God. It doesn't matter whether I am in this body or that body, or whether I am in this position or that position. Wherever I am, my duty is to serve the Lord. In this way, devotees are very easily able to give up the false ego of this material body, but non devotees who try to give up false ego are not able to, because the concept of giving up false ego itself is false ego, because even the false ego is not ours. So when one thinks, oh, I am now liberated, actually one is not liberated. If one thinks I am advancing in bhakti, then he is not advancing. Actually, the real sign of advancement in bhakti is when we feel detachment from sense gratification and we feel attachment to bhajan. When we cannot live without chanting, when we cannot live without scriptures or the spiritual master or devotees, and we do not want to enjoy these senses, we can understand this material world is so miserable. We feel a sense of separation from the absolute, from the supreme Lord. That is a sign of advancement. So actually, when one is advancing in bhakti, one feels a great sense of loneliness. So once one starts experiencing a sense of loneliness, then one should understand that he is now in the preliminary stages of spiritual advancement. Hmm. So, in his Anuvritti explanations of the Upadeshamrit, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur writes that our material identification creates three kinds of urges: the urge to speak, the urge or demands of the mind, and the demands of the body. So, so when the living entity falls victim to these types of urges, his life becomes inauspicious. So it's like this, you go to a sea beach. Say, imagine you are in Hawaii or someplace. You're at the sea beach. So there's a beautiful sky, there's a beautiful sand, and the waves are, touching your feet. You have beautiful sea waves. But when you are on the sea beach, you are living in constant danger. Any moment, the sea can turn wild and you may drown. So you need to be very cautious. So that's material nature. As soon as a living entity comes in contact with the material nature, his consciousness is colored by the three modes of goodness, passion, and ignorance. And as soon as his consciousness is covered by these three modes, he starts identifying with this material body, which is also made of the three modes. So in this way, the living entity becomes entangled. So if you're in the water, you need to swim. You need to flail your arms and legs to come up from water. So just like that, when you are in Maya, you have to understand how to get rid of it using its own resources. So, for example, books are printed on paper, which is essentially a mode of ignorance. But the knowledge presented therein is Vishuddha Sattva, it's pure goodness, it's transcendental. So, when you take help of material elements, you are able to make your body, your consciousness transcendental. So, one who identifies with this body, with these three modes of nature, his life becomes inauspicious because he is then subject to birth, old age, disease, and death. Not only that, so many other types of miseries. Matra sparshastu kaunteya shitoshna suktukada. So as soon as one is in contact with material nature, immediately there is a perception of heat and cold and happiness and distress. It's a very interesting example. If, for example, you're walking on a street and a man is smoking a cigarette. Now, the man is really enjoying it. Nice cigarette, fine tobacco, or God knows what. But you are inhaling the smoke and you are feeling miserable. You're seeing the pollution. So the object is one, but perceptions are different because you are perceiving from the mode of goodness, he's perceiving from the mode of ignorance. So he's enjoying and you are suffering. So this is material nature. So there is neither suffering nor enjoyment in this material nature, but people are just perceiving that way. So by identification with this material body, immediately we fall into this sort of misidentification. So one has to be very careful. So Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says, by such tapasya one can overcome victimization. One who practices resisting these demands or urges is called tapasvi, or one who practices austerities. By such tapasya one can overcome victimization of the material energy, the external potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So tapasya is like swimming. You have a choice when you fall in water. You could just stay still and drown, or you could move your arms and legs and get out of the water. So even when you are getting out of the water, it is essentially the water only which is pushing you out. So in the material nature also, we take the help of material elements only to help us escape. This body, these senses, the mind, the intellect, these are material. But the soul is covered by these. So when the soul takes shelter of these elements and tries to become transcendental, these elements can work. For example, we are now using the faculty of speech to describe transcendental subject matter. We're using eyes to read transcendental subject matter. We're using ears to hear that subject matter. So even though ears, eyes, tongue, they are all material, they are being used in transcendental activities. So they become transcendental. So this is called tapasya because this is painful. Tapa means heat in Sanskrit. The word tapa also signifies heat. So tapasya means to heat oneself up. Also, boil out, boil the hell out. so, so tapasya also means to, burn all the reactions of inauspicious reactions of material living. By tapasya, one can overcome the victimization by the material energy. So, what is this tapasya? So, one is urge to speak. So, people may speak nonsensical things like we were discussing politics, economics, sports, entertainment, so many things. But this is all in the material domain. What is happening in Hollywood? What is happening in the White House? What is Trump doing? What is this doing, that doing? These are all illusory subject matters. These are just illusions. These are just, subject matter of time. These are not transcendental. So our job is not that. For example, if you go to a hospital and suddenly they bring a patient, who has had a motor accident. Now bones are broken, blood is dripping out, the person is in pain or maybe unconscious. What will the doctor say? The doctor is not going to say, "Oh, how are you feeling? Which part of country are you from? Oh, are you like, do you like football or basketball?" No, the doctor will directly talk about health. What happened? Did you fall out from a car or some vehicle hit you or what happened? Where do you feel pain? Are you feel? Then he'll test the eyes. Can you see this light? Can you hear this sound? Doctor is immediately talking medical subject matter because it's an emergency. Later on, when the patient is healed, he can go out. Then they can talk peaceful things. Then he can talk about sports, entertainment, so many things. But when the patient is in a critical condition, the doctor will only talk about the subject matter. So we are in a critical condition within this material nature. We are we are struck with a false identity. We are now in a difficult situation. Maya is continuously reducing our time span, and we are about to meet death. Therefore, we should talk about important subject matter. So we should talk about Krishna. Natat vachas chitra padam harer yasho jagat pavitram pragranita karhichit तद्वायसम तीर्थम उशंति मानसा नयत्र हंसा निरमंत्य उशिक्षया. So those words which do not describe the glories of the Lord, who alone can sanctify the atmosphere of the whole universe, are considered by saintly persons to be like unto a place of pilgrimage for crows. Since all the perfect persons are inhabitants of transcendental abode, they do not derive any pleasure there. So, very important point. What is the significance of speech or words actually? That is a very important topic. At the very beginning of creation, Krishna is describing this in Bhagavad Gita, if you remember, that of all the sounds, I am of the pranava, omkar. I am the sound of om. This om vibration, actually, it's not om, it's not om, it's a sound. It goes like om. So it's like a nasal sound. Om. It's not oma. It's om. So this sound om. This is, you can say, the primeval sound. The entire creation emanates from this. This om is Krishna. This is the sound vibration of Krishna. From this om, the entire Vedic knowledge is is evolved. So sound is actually the basis of all creation. I was reading in one scripture, like there's a very interesting point that for a person who uses abusive language or harsh language, words become rakshasas and they harass him in the next birth. So one must be very careful. Speech should be very sweet at all times, but it should be truthful. I mean, sweet, I mean, by sweet, I mean truthful. That means the speech should be. So, what can be most truthful speech? The speech of about the absolute truth, subject matter related to absolute truth. That is truthful speech. Actually, materialistic speech is always false because material nature itself is false. So one has to be very careful when one is speaking. This is the austerity of speech. This is the austerity of sound. One must purify one's consciousness by speaking pure words because sound is the basis of existence. So the words which do not describe the glories of the Lord are like a place of pilgrimage for crows. They're like dirt. They're like garbage. They have no permanent existence. Therefore, saintly souls avoid all of this. So in this regard, there's the instance of Srila Madhavendra Puri, who is, you can say, the spiritual master of the spiritual master of Lord Chaitanya, who is actually the basis of all the, all the Gaudiya Vaishnava literatures. Pure love of Radha and Krishna. That's Madhavendra Puri. He's the fountainhead of love of Godhead, as Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu calls him. So Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu calls him the fountain of love of Godhead. And Madhavendra Puri, how did he live? In his own life, Srila Madhavendra Puri avoided even walking on public streets. He would always take side alleys. In the forest, he would always take the lesser known paths. He would avoid the main roads to avoid meeting any kind of materialistic people because people would come to him. Because why? And why was that? Because he was always chanting the names of Radha and Krishna and he was always crying. It is said that his eyes were always streaming tears of happiness, tears of ecstasy of Radha and Krishna. Therefore, he did not want to meet anyone. He did not want to be worshipped or respected or anything. He just wanted to focus on his meditation. That is Srila Madhavendra Puri. So such personalities avoid even hearing the praise. So for such personalities, the whole material world is a big zero. Shunyaitam jagat sarvam govinda virahename. They are living in separation from Krishna. So naturally, they are not interested in the subject matter of sports, economics, politics, and such topics. Because the thing is, even if we are transcendentally situated, this subject matter can attract our consciousness. Vishwamitra, Rishi, sage Vishwamitra, was sitting in austerities for 8,000 years. We can't even sit peacefully for 8 minutes. But he was sitting quietly for 8,000 years meditating on Brahman. And when Menaka came, his consciousness was immediately spoiled. He was immediately attracted by the beauty of Menaka. He could perceive her presence, her feminine presence, her beauty, her grace, and he fell victim. He became completely entangled. And next time, after 10,000 years more of austerity, when Rambha came to attract him, he became angry. He came under the influence of a mode of ignorance. And then he realized that his austerity had been broken again. So you can see that speech is so important. So you see how difficult it is to focus consciousness. So we should start practicing these austerities to actually do sadhana. So sadhana, yes, of course, chanting and reading are important, but this is how we put it in practice. तद्वाग तद्वाग विसर्गो जनताघ विप्लवो यस्मिन् प्रति श्लोकम अबद्धवत्यपि नामान्य अनन्तस्य यशो निकंतानि यत् शृण्वन्ति गायन्ति गृणन्ति साधव. On the other hand, the literature, that literature which is full of descriptions of transcendental glories of the name, fame, forms, pastimes, etc., of the unlimited Supreme Person Lord, is a different creation, full of transcendental words directed toward bringing about a revolution in the impious lives of the world's misdirected civilization. Such transcendental literatures, even though imperfectly composed, are heard, sung, and accepted by purified men who are thoroughly honest. So, thoroughly honest means that their life is completely focused on the absolute truth. So there is no untruthfulness in their behavior. They are thoroughly honest. So, by hearing the transcendental glories of name, fame, forms, pastimes, etc., this purifies our consciousness. We become attracted. In this world, we fall down because we are attracted. We are attracted by feminine beauty. We are attracted by material opulence. We are attracted by name, fame, forms are of ours. So, if we can transfer this, कामस्य नेन्द्रियः प्रीतिर लाभो जीवेत यावता जीवस्य तत्व जिज्ञासा नर्थो यश्चेह कर्मभिः. So kamasya nendriya pritir. Life's desires must never be directed towards sense gratification. Desires will always be there. So Srimad Bhagavatam, Srila Vyasadeva is not saying that don't have desires. He's saying turn your desires to only Krishna. Jivasya tattva jigyasa. Only try to understand the absolute truth, nothing else. Because that attraction will always be there. So either you become attracted to the material energy or you become attracted to Krishna. So that choice is always yours. So when we talk only about Krishna, naturally all these topics become distasteful to us. Vishaya vinivartante niraharasya dehina rasavarjam rasopyasya param drishtva nivartate. As soon as transcendental subject matter becomes attractive, all the talks of this material world become unattractive. So by talking, by hearing, by describing Krishna all the time, gradually our heart becomes attracted to him. In this way, we can become purified from this material attraction. Hare Krishna. Yes. Any questions or comments?
Can I ask Prabhu?
Yes, please.
Okay. So Prabhu, when we are child, so here are three urges are mentioned, right? The urge to speak, the urge of mind, and the urge of the body. So all the three
Hmm.
urges are very high when we are growing up, till we are
Hmm.
teenagers, and suddenly we have some control over the urges, right? The urge to speak, we
Hmm.
understand what to speak and what to speak. But so
Hmm.
as we're gradually gaining control over these urges, little bit. So why can't, when we start this process of bhakti, so we were able to control it, wholly? Because
Hmm.
gradually, if you see over the moment, the people who get experience, the old people know how to negotiate, how to talk better, how to, uh, uh, act in a particular way. So why when we take the shelter of the Lord, perform bhakti. So why not there's a exponential increase in the urge control, if that make any
Hmm.
sense.
Yes, yes, yes. Your question is quite valid actually. And the answer is a bit difficult one, so please tolerate. Please bear with me. See, that's why Srila Prabhupada mentioned, right, when we started reading today, Prabhupada says that as soon as children are little grown up, they are sent to Gurukul. See, Prabhu, if you want to become, say, a chartered accountant or a doctor or an engineer or lawyer or mechanic or anything, there are years and years of education. Tomorrow, if you get up in the morning and you decide you want to become a doctor because you like it, you can't just become a doctor. It requires at least, how much? 12
10,
plus,
10, 10, all,
yeah,
minimum 10.
yeah, minimum 10 years of education. I mean, I'm talking, yeah, so 10 years of education at least. So if you're talking about 10 years of education, from today you'll have to start again. And maybe if you have forgotten your high school biology, you may have to go back 12 years.
True.
So that much of training is required to become a doctor. So to become a devotee also training is required. Srila Prabhupada makes a very interesting mention. He says, for 12 years, if you chant 16 rounds continuously and you read all the books and you practice brahmacharya, whatever you speak will come true. You'll become a pure Brahmana. The Supreme Personality of Godhead will honor your words. So you will be like Brahma Bhuyaya Kalpate. You will be situated on the platform of Brahma. So it requires practice. And our disadvantage is that many years of our life have been spent in accumulating garbage. A lot of nonsensical stuff we have learned.
And we will spend
So,
many years to remove those garbage as well.
yes, Prabhu. Like imagine this, Prabhu, you know how to open your phone and open apps, download photos, open social media, send messages. Now imagine how much time it actually takes to learn this. Suppose you take this phone to a villager. You have to explain what is this, how it works. So it will take you almost a day to explain all of this. That much knowledge you have, which is not necessary, which is not transcendental. Likewise, so many things we have learned: how to use computers, how to work with automobiles, how to fill our income tax forms, this and that. All this is on the platform of Maya. All that is distracting us from Krishna.
True.
So there will be a point on time where this all has to be kind of given up. So Srila Prabhupada suggests an easier way, that we simply increase our attachment to Krishna and depend on Him to deliver us, because for us it's impossible to become liberated by our own effort.
Sure, Prabhu. So because I asked this question because sometimes it happens that uh,
Hmm.
when there is some important presentation coming up for me, so I tend to avoid
Hmm.
all the unnecessary things like I stop playing or watching series and all everything. I don't watch YouTube and Instagram at that point of time.
Ah.
But when those scenarios are not there, right? So at that moment, I tend to watch, and I know from inside that this is just sheer waste of time, and I tend to keep it. And I just get a feeling inside me that this is something wrong. It's not something natural coming up. But still, I tend to let that thought uh, dominate.
Yes.
And so
It's all right, Prabhu. This is tapasya. That's why we are here. So actually, Prabhu, these sessions that we have started now after Bhagavad Gita and Shri Ishopanishads also. Now I was just discussing with Anandram Prabhu also. When my health was poor, I was just taking a break also. I was just trying to, when I was recovering, I was just thinking only all the time, what should be the best now? What should be the best course of action? See, Prabhu, we are running out of time. And as per the predictions of many astrologers in Vrindavan, even Vaishnava astrologers, uh, some very terrible, some very bad times are coming now. Very soon we are likely to see some war or some situation like that. So we are
As in
even our
for
lifespan
everyone.
is not fixed. For
For
everyone,
okay.
even devotees. It's going to be like a global war kind of a situation. And they even gave the pointers, like, there are different scriptures which have pointed this out. So they have quoted all of that. So we really don't know whether it happens or not. It all depends on Krishna's mercy. Rakhe bhi mare bhi jo ichha tuhar. That's so Krishna's wish. So, but we should be prepared completely. So I was just thinking, what is the best way to practically understand everything? So in these discussions that we are doing now, these 12, 13 verses that we're going to discuss in Nectar of Instruction, they are actually complete process of bhakti. What are the disciplines required? What are prohibitions? What should be done? What should not be done? You have the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita now. You have studied Bhagavad Gita. Now, understand these practices. These are given by Srila Rupa Goswami. Srila Prabhupada also preached about these. So, understand these practices and fix yourself in bhakti. So, even if there is some trouble, you are fixed. The body will be destroyed, whether it is destroyed in the next 5 years or it lasts another 40 years. Doesn't matter. But death is certain. So, try to understand what our acharyas were saying. Follow these practices, purify your existence. We have very less time left.
So Prabhu, following these instructions that we are going to
Hmm.
study, so
Hmm.
will help us understand Gita more clearly. Because Gita reading is something that I'm doing on my own as well. But
Yes,
if we'll
nice.
follow those, so it will act as a catalyst, or it's just that we have to do.
No, no, your understanding of Gita will become absolutely clear, crystal clear.
Because it happens sometimes also when I know that I shouldn't do something, and when someone asks, I just say that no, it's written in the Gita, but I'm not able to explain that what I have understood. I know that I am not supposed to do this because Lord has
Huh.
said ask us not to, but explaining it to someone, because they are asked a lot of questions that I know the answers, but I don't know how to articulate that properly to them, because I have understood
Ah.
that it's something of an intrinsic feeling, but how I should
Hmm.
explain it explicitly, that I'm not aware.
That will become clear. So let me give you an example here, Prabhu. By practicing rules and regulations, we become situated in mode of goodness. And when we are in the mode of goodness, it is also mode of illumination. So immediately we become situated in good in knowledge. We are able to understand all the things. Like I'll give you one example, Prabhu. You live in Delhi, so you might have gone to old Delhi sometimes, Connaught Place, and then this
Yes,
Baharganj and all those. So you might have seen these people who are roasting Sikh kebab and all on the streets.
yes,
Delhi is famous for kebabs and all those things. Lucknow also you must have seen.
yes,
So there are people who relish that smell, that smoky flavor of spices and meats roasting in fire and all that. There are people who really
mhm,
relish that smell. But we are devotees. When we go there, that smell is not relishable. We find it obnoxious.
true.
Or
I
especially
will
in
just
Maharashtra, when
tend
we,
to walk fast.
yeah, or when we, like in Maharashtra, when we smell this garlic, like it's very prominent garlic smell.
Mm,
So it becomes unbearable. We are not able to tolerate that smell. But there are people who love it, absolutely relish it. Wow, what are you making? Garlic bread. Wow. or tunde kebab or seek kebab. It's absolutely abominable, but they like it because they are in ignorance. We don't like it because we are in goodness. So you see, Prabhu, that's how it is. So these following these rules and regulations will help you understand Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam crystal clear.
okay, Prabhu.
Okay.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you.
Hare
Namaskar.
Krishna. Thank you very much. Okay, so we stop here today and we continue on Friday. Okay. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. Shrila
हाँ,
Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
जय
Hare Krishna.
हरे कृष्णा
Hare Krishna.